was once a dream that was Rome.
All right, fellas, let me be clear. We are going to do something different today.
3 scoops?
No, Sleepy Joe, we're going to do a tier list.
Ice cream flavors, because chocolate chip has got to be S tier.
What? No, Joe, Roman emperors. We talked about this.
We did?
Yes, you primordial ooze. Yesterday we talked about it.
Fuck you, Donnie. I don't know many Romanians.
Jesus Christ, Joe. Anyways, let's discuss which emperors we should do today, because I don't think we have time to do them all.
Right, I think we should do Augustus through Marcus Aurelius, cover the Pax Romana, and not be here all day.
That's not a bad idea, however,
We should do Augustus through Constantine Palaiologos.
What the fuck? Why Joe?
I'm a completionist.
You're a sleepy old man who will be taking a nap before we get to Nero.
Oh, whatever, Donnie, you just don't know shit about the Eastern Romans.
Yes, I do. I'm a Byzantine enthusiast.
What do busy teens have to do with this?
What are you talking about?
Guys, I agree with Donald. For today, let's do Augustus through Marcus Aurelius. And if our fans like it, we can do the rest.
Sounds good to me.
All right, but can we be done by 8? I want to watch Survivor.
Sure, Joe. Let's start with Augustus, the first emperor of Rome.
Hold on, Barry. What about Julius?
Julius wasn't an emperor, Sleepy Joe. Wake up.
Fuck you, Donnie. He was declared dictator for life.
Donald's right, Joe. Augustus was the first emperor of Rome.
Augustus was a winner like me. He's for sure an S tier. Many are saying this.
Many are saying you are an orange F tier loser, tangerine fuck.
Guys, please, let's get back to Augustus. I'm with Trump here. He is clearly S tier, the beginning of the Pax Romana, his building projects, the solidification of his dynasty into power. In fact, poetry and writing flourished under his reign. He may be the best emperor of all time, actually.
Roads.
What?
He built big, beautiful roads.
Indeed he did, Donald. Are we all in agreement on S tier?
I thought we liked him.
We do, Joe. What are you talking about?
Then why make him S tier? That's even lower than F.
Jesus Christ, Joe.
S tier stands for super or superb, you languid fossil of a bygone era.
I didn't know.
Clearly not. Let's move on to Tiberius, who has quite a few things in common with old creepy Joe over here.
Don't go there, Donald. Let's keep this serious.
I like Tiberius.
Of course you do.
He was a great general. Him and Drusus were a badass duo. On God.
To be fair, Joe, that was before he was emperor.
So true, Obama. Anyways, his term in office started out all right. He created no new wars and filled the treasury. But after the death of his son, he started to care less and less about being emperor.
Oh yeah, didn't he retreat to Epstein's island?
What the fuck, Joe?
I mean, Joe is half right. We know what happened, and it was on an island.
Not a list you want to be on, Obama.
Yeah, Joe, I get it. I'm tempted to put Tiberius in the D tier.
That's too low, I think. Leaving Sejanus in charge of Rome and fucking off to play with minnows is bad. But Rome was still in a good spot when he died. C tier.
That's fair.
See, it is.
Let's get into one of my favorite emperors, Caligula.
Joe, why is he one of your favorites?
Yeah, Joe, explain yourself.
I too am an equestrian enthusiast. In fact, I was going to make my vice president a horse.
You did just that, Joe.
All right, easy now, Donald. Caligula is one of those often hated and portrayed as a madman emperors. The horse is a consul, making his troops collect seashells, committing murder, rape, and he might have even slept with his sister.
Sweet home Alabama.
I do think it's fair to point out that the sources we have on the man were written by people who hated him. The first fake news, I'm just saying.
That's fair, Donald. He probably wasn't insane, and a lot of these things could be propaganda by his enemies. That being said, he was murdered 4 years into his reign and seems to clearly have caused some chaos, even wanting to be worshipped as a god.
A tier.
What the fuck, Joe? Were you even listening?
What now? What's going on?
Jesus Christ, I say D tier.
Agreed. It's time for good old Uncle Claudius. He was thought to be a slow child, maybe even had a learning disability, just like old Joe over here.
Fuck you, Donnie. I'm quicker than green grass through a goose.
What the fuck?
Look, Jack, Uncle Claudius was a very solid emperor. He took control of an empire that was in the midst of chaos and smoothed things out and put Rome back on track. It's even said he worked till past midnight every night.
Unlike you, Joe, you fall asleep at 6 p.m. sharp.
He did pass agrarian reform, gave out larger food doles. He even passed laws protecting slaves.
Let's not forget adding Britannia to the empire. Very huge.
Agreed. Is Claudius an A-tier emperor?
Is a frog's ass watertight?
Joe, what the fuck?
It's an old saying, Donnie, try and keep up. Yes, A. Tier for good old Uncle Claudius.
Let's move on to another vilified emperor, Nero. Many compare him to you, Donald.
Fuck off, Obama. Let's start with some of the crazy shit Nero allegedly did. The persecution of early Christians, very nasty stuff. Of course, he is said to have fiddled while Rome burned.
Bullshit.
What do you mean, Joe?
Music historians believe the vile class of instruments to which the fiddle belongs was not developed until the 11th century. If Nero played anything, it would probably have been the cithara, a heavy wooden instrument with 4 to 7 strings.
How the fuck do you know that, Joe?
I read it on the back of a Cracker Jack box.
Jesus Christ. Anyways, he also banged his mom, tried to drown her, and then had her beat to death. Very sad.
I do think some of the same stuff applies with Nero that did with Caligula. Some of this may be propaganda. That being said, his chaotic reign ended the Julio-Claudian dynasty that started with Augustus. I'm thinking E-tier, honestly.
E-tier seems fair.
He's no Caligula.
Next on this list is Galba, the first emperor in the year of the 4 emperors.
Who the fuck is Galba? Sounds like a Star Trek villain.
He assumed the throne after Nero's suicide, Sleepy Joe. He only ruled for like 7 months.
Say less, this is clearly D-tier to me.
Now hold on, did he do anything cool or not?
He got fucking murdered, Joe. He was more useless than you.
Fuck you, Donnie. Did he have hobbies? Was he a good friend? Did he like ice cream?
We have no way of knowing that, Joe. I'm actually thinking E-tier now.
Many are saying this.
Okay, boys, one of my personal favorites is next, Otho.
Joe, why the fuck is he one of your favorites?
By all reports, he was a feminine, scared, pampered loser who ruled for 3 months and then killed himself.
He's my favorite Beetlejuice character. Wait, what are we rating again?
For fuck's sake, F tier.
Moving on.
Now, for a real man of culture, let's talk about Vitellius, in my opinion, one of the most underrated Roman emperors.
You are only saying that because he was a fat piece of shit like you.
Yeah, Donald, but instead of Big Macs, he was eating pheasant, fish liver, and the tongues of flamingos.
Whatever, this entire convo is sounding awfully fat-phobic. He was a good man.
E tier for enormous.
F tier for fat.
G tier for ginormous.
All right, shut the fuck up.
The start of the Flavian dynasty begins now. Vespasian would be the man that would kill the last fat ass.
Fuck you, Obama.
I'm a huge fan of Vespasian A tier, at least. In fact, I'm thinking of enacting one of his most famous policies, but in America.
What the fuck are you talking about, Joe?
Piss tax.
What the fuck?
Listen, this orange fuck left us in a bad way, so we need to make some money. So I'm going to tax the piss.
We don't piss into fucking pots anymore, you sleepy bitch.
Yeah, Joe, how are you going to enforce a piss tax in the modern world?
PayPal.
What?
Every time someone pisses, they have to PayPal me 25 cents.
What the fuck? Trump, I'm saying B tier for Vespasian, ruled for 10 years, started a lot of construction projects, including the Colosseum, and made Rome stable.
Seems fair to me.
He was pushing P.
Now it's time for his son, Titus.
The guy's not even funny, F tier.
The Roman Emperor Joe, not Christopher Titus, the comedian?
Hey, that guy is funny.
No, he isn't. I like Titus. He only ruled for 2 years, but finished the Colosseum, led the efforts to help the affected regions after the disaster at Pompeii, and put down a few rebellions.
I don't think he ruled long enough to be above a C tier.
C tier seems about right for his lost potential.
Let's talk about one of the more underrated emperors, in my opinion, and that's Domitian.
I can't believe I'm agreeing with this geriatric fuck, but I do think Domitian gets an unfair shake in the sources. How about you, Obama?
Let me be clear. We have already talked about this with Nero and Caligula.
My favorite.
Right. We run into the same issues with the sources as we did with those emperors.
Just like CNN fake news, the Senate was the enemy of the people.
Shut up, Ronald.
It's Donald.
Domitian was one of the few, if only emperors, to strengthen the currency instead of devaluing it.
The dollar could use some strengthening under your rule, you dementia-ridden asshole.
Okay, guys, enough. We still have a few more emperors to go. And eventually Michelle wants me to come watch Grey's Anatomy with her.
Elevator sex.
Yes, Joe, so I'm thinking C tier for our boy here. Obviously, for years, he was considered one of the worst, but new research has improved his reputation quite a bit. You know what? Fuck it. B tier.
Very based, Obama. Here we start with the first of the so-called 5 good emperors, which if we were doing the 5 good presidents, it would of course be Washington, Lincoln, Teddy Roosevelt, Reagan, and myself.
You are so fucking delusional, man.
Listen, guys, back to Nerva. He really is just a placeholder emperor keeping the seat warm for Trajan.
Keeping the stability and not allowing the empire to fall into chaos after the death of Domitian is important, though.
I agree, he at least gets a C tier for that.
Agreed, C tier it is. Oh, it's time, boys.
Let's fucking go.
It's time for the motherfucking Optimus Princeps.
Who is playing that music?
Sorry, Barry, I just got excited.
So we have the man who extends the Roman Empire to its largest extent, the conqueror of Dacia, the thrasher of the Parthians, underrated fiscal and domestic policy, and would set the example of what all other Roman emperors wanted to be. S tier on God.
Say less.
For real, for real.
People are saying I remind them of Trajan, Many are saying this.
Nobody is fucking saying that, Donald.
Obama, you don't know shit. Let's move on to a guy that reminds me of Sleepy Joe.
Why would Hadrian remind you of me?
Joe, you don't want to know.
Sleepy fuck. Anyways, Hadrian is considered one of the best Roman emperors. I think that's fair to say.
He gets some criticism for scaling back Trajan's conquests, but I think that was necessary to protect the borders of the empire.
His construction projects were impressive. You could say he built back better.
No, you fucking can't, because that saying sucks ass. But you guys are missing the point on why Hadrian is one of the best emperors of all time.
Why's that?
Joe, no.
He built a huge fucking beautiful wall up there in Britain. Kept those rapist and criminal fucks the Picts on the other side. A true thing of beauty, S tier, in my opinion.
I think he's clearly an A tier.
I agree.
That wall, though.
Okay, next is... I have never heard of this fellow.
It's Antoninus Pius, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know much about this guy either.
That's the problem with Pius. We just don't have as many sources on him as we do the rest of the 5 good emperors.
All we can really say is the empire seemed to prosper under his rule.
Yeah, but what did he do? Do you think he liked ice cream?
Look, all I can say is he's considered by most to have been a competent emperor. I say we go B tier and move on to the last 2.
Agreed.
2, it's the 5 good emperors Obama, not 6.
Marcus had a brother Donald. He ruled alongside him for a bit.
Yeah, you don't know shit, Ronald.
It's Donald, and what was that goofy guy's name?
Lucius Verus.
Well, he did seem, at least in the early part of his reign, to be the face of the brothers' duo. He did go campaign in Parthia after all.
Wait, isn't he the guy whose troops brought back the Antonine plague, which killed millions of Romans, including himself, and thus weakened the empire and helped bring on the end of the Pax Romana?
I mean, yes, but it's not like he did it on purpose.
Don't care. Easiest E tier of my life.
He sounds pretty bad, Barry.
Fine. On to the last one. The philosopher emperor, the man who wrote Meditations and the last of the 5 good emperors.
Marcus Aurelius, talk about a stable genius.
I really liked how he wanted to turn Rome back into a republic and wanted that Russell Crowe fella to take over. Super nice.
Joe, you stupid bastard, that's from the movie Gladiator. It's not real life. Are you getting tired?
Look, Survivor is on soon, and Jill lets me have 2 scoops of ice cream on Wednesdays.
For fuck's sake, Joe, look, I think he's A. Tier maybe B tier, but he loses some credit for appointing his son as heir.
What the fuck else was he supposed to do?
Do what the rest of the 5 good emperors did and adopt the best man available.
They were all shooting blanks, and Hadrian was gayer than anyone Biden has picked to work at the White House.
Not a bad point.
Jesus Christ, Joe fell asleep again. Let's just wrap this up. B tier for Marcus, agreed?
That's fair.
Hey guys, did we get to Constantine?
Good morning, you old fuck. That's for next time.
I'm going to log off, boys. Michelle is making meatloaf.
Oh, damn, I'm jealous. Later, boys.
Later, fellas. Hey Jill, get the bowls.
Ave, my dudes, and thanks for tuning in to Pax Romana. I love you all. You are the best subscribers on YouTube. Many are saying this. If you want me to make more of these, comment it down below, and also make sure to hit that like button. The admin also said to let you guys know that Carthage must be destroyed or something. Later, dudes.
And a big shout out to the most loyal dudes in the Empire, my Patreon subscribers. If you'd like to join their noble ranks and see your name scroll across the screen in all its glory, head on over to patreon.com/updatingonrome. The Empire needs your support.